Hello, stamping friends. It's Terry Hartley at Rustic Barn Cards. Welcome. Today I have a fun fold, a gate fold, and I'm going to be using the Season of Chic stamp set along with the dies. And there are some beautiful dies in here. I'm not going to be using this one today, but this is really awesome. And you have dies that will cut out all of the shapes, and then you also have some more detail dies too. We're going to use this one right here and the little leaf. So those are the only two dies that we're going to use today. But you have all four seasons. You have the seashells, flowers, leaves, snowflakes. And then you have some other interesting images here. And the sentiments: wishing you the best birthday ever. I'm here for you. You make each season of life even more beautiful. You are amazing beyond measure. Thinking of you, love you, and thanks. And we're going to make a thanks card. Before I show you the card that we're going to make and we get started stamping, if you place an order with me this month, here is the host code. I wanted to tell you about the online global retreat that's coming up on July 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th. And this is, I have teamed up with two other demonstrators, and we are the online crafting trio. And Connie Douglas from Canada, and Sarah Fisher from Australia. And we also have a special guest presenter from the UK. So this is going to be our biggest retreat yet. You may now sign up, and in the description you will have a link where you can click and get all the details and be able to sign up. And just quickly to let you know that you will receive a retreat in the mail, and you can fill out the form that's in this description no matter if you live in the UK, Canada, Australia, or the United States, and we will make sure the correct demonstrator receives that form. But you will receive a goodie bag with over $30 of product. You'll have make and takes, and there will be 8 supplies for 8 make and takes, although we are going to give you an additional 30 ideas and projects besides the 8 make and takes. And you have access to watch the videos over and over, and we are going to be using a private Facebook group for our online global retreat. And in the United States, the cost is $65, and in the description you can read the other cost because it's different in each country. So I hope you will join us. Okay, I'm going to show you the fun fold that we're going to make today. And we have a little belly band that goes on this, so this just comes right off. And we have thanks. And so this is the card that we're going to make. So are you ready to get started? We will be using some of the Designer Series paper that goes with the Season of Chic suite, because it is a suite. And the Designer Series paper is called Texture of Chic, which I just had to look to make sure I was going to give you the correct name. So here are the beautiful Designer Series paper, and of course then on the back, and here's some seashells. There's also some in the suite. There's some specialty gold paper. This is beautiful, I think, with the snowflakes. So lots of gorgeous paper. And we are going to be using some of this Designer Series paper for our card today. And we're going to start with our basic white thick cardstock, and this is 5.5 by 8.5. And then I am going to move that out of the way and bring in our scoring. Now you can score using your trimmer, but I'm going to go ahead and bring in our scoring pad, and I'm going to place this right here, and you have the inches across the top. You also have a holder for the stylus, and this is the stylus, and I am going to score 2 1/8. So here's our 2, and that one mark right after the 2, of course, is the 1/8. So I'm going to hold my stylus here, and I'm going to go straight down. And then you just need to turn this around, and we're going to score on the other side 2 1/8. And then I'll move this out of the way. This is all the scoring that you need. Then I'll bring my bone folder in, and we will go ahead and fold on the score lines. Now, another way you can do this is you can just score 2 1/8 on one side, and then you can just take your card and fold it over because you know it's going to meet in the middle. And I'm going to lay this aside, and we have several pieces for our card today, but I am just going to talk about each one as we go. So we are going to use soft succulent and also basic white. And I'm going to be bringing in our stitched rectangles. They don't come in this container, I just have them in there. And what I'm going to be using is not the largest, so it's next to the largest, and then the one right below that, which is right here. So we are going to, of these two, we're going to, the largest one's going to be the soft succulent, and then the other one is going to be the smaller one, rectangle, for the basic white. And I've already run these through the cut and emboss machine. Then, of course, you have another piece that you could use for another card. So I have these two right here, and we are going to do some stamping on this, stitched. And again, you just need to have your soft succulent and your basic white large enough to run those through. So I'm going to bring in, we're going to be using our flower. And this is a 2-step. Also going to bring in this little image here that we're going to be using. And again, we're going to be using thanks. The inks we're going to use is our Memento Tuxedo Black, soft succulent, and I'm going to be using So Saffron. So I'm going to start with our black, and we're going to go ahead and ink thanks up. And since these are photopolymer, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our piercing mat. I need a larger area to stamp on. So I guess we'd all like that, right? Okay, so I think I have that inked up. And then I'm going to place this right towards the bottom of our card. There we go. And now I'm going to go ahead and open up our So Saffron. And these two flowers, you'll find one that has a little more detail than the other. And I like to stamp the one with the detail second. But you can actually do that either way. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up the So Saffron, and then I'm going to go ahead and stamp off. Okay, so I'm going to stamp off on the grid paper, and then I'm going to stamp on to our cardstock. And I'm going to do that again. I'm going to stamp full strength and then stamp off, and then I'm going to place it about right beside the other flower. Then I'm going to bring in our detail stamp, and there is kind of a right way to do this, to kind of line this up. And this is kind of curved here. There's a little opening here, and there's a little opening here. So that's what I'm going to match up. If it doesn't match up exactly, I think we're okay. So I'm going to ink this up, and then I'm going to place it right over the first flower. And I did miss a little bit there, so, but again, it is, I should probably mark this. That's what I usually do, but I didn't. So we'll just go ahead and stamp this one. And then I'm going to grab a scrap of basic white. And we are going to go ahead and stamp and did you notice that I forgot to stamp off and then stamp on? And then I'm going to go ahead there we go. And I want to do one more, because we're going to need, I thought I could get two on there, but I might have if I would have placed it over a little bit more. But we'll just go ahead and ink up our flower, stamp off, stamp onto our scrap of paper, then ink up our flower, and go ahead and there's a little indentation there, so I think I turned that around, so we'll just get this turned around. And there we go. So that looks good. So you don't have to be exact. And now we're going to go ahead and die cut these two pieces out. But before we do that, I'm going to lay those aside, and I want to finish my stamping. So I'm going to go ahead and close up the So Saffron, and we're going to bring in Soft Succulent. So I'm just going to go ahead and ink up, and we are just going to kind of stamp this around our card. So I'm going to turn our card around, and I'm going to stamp here. So some of this is not going, the stamp is not going to be on the card. Some will be off, and that is fine. So this is kind of like a splatter. And I am using full strength. And I want to turn my card and add a little bit right here. And we'll add a little bit right here. And I'm going to add a little bit there. And on the other card, I didn't put any of this splatter below my thanks, but I'm going to do that on this card, just for something different. And maybe just a little bit on the side there. So when I ink this up, I'm just going to use that little tail. Sometimes you get some extra ink there, and you can take your chamois and you can just wipe that off, because you do not want to get that on the card. And then I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit right there. And right there. That looks good. Okay, let's close this up. Clean my block. And now I'm ready to set this aside, and we're going to do some die cutting. So I'm going to bring in our mini cut and emboss, and I'll need to place the 1 and then plate 2. And we're going to go ahead and die cut our flowers out. And I cover it up or die, but I found it. And again, you're just going to move this around till you, and I might mark this. Usually I mark some of my, I'll mark my die, and then I also will mark my stamp, so I can make sure I don't have to, you know, it takes a little bit of time. Don't have to waste time by figuring it out, but I haven't done that yet. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and run this through. A gatefold is a fairly, I think, an easy and fun fold to do. So here's one flower. And then I don't really need to run all of this extra basic white, so I'm just going to cut that off. And what I think I'll do is, because I need a scrap, I'm going to have 2 leaves. One's going to be Evening Evergreen, and so I'm going to use this leaf die from the season of Chic. And then I am going to go ahead and cut this flower out, and I can cut both of those out at the same time. Put a little sandwich plate tube on there, and we will run this through. We have our second flower, and so you can see we have our leaf right here, and it just has one little, there we go. So there's our leaf, and I do have a few little, I'm just going to brush those off. I want another leaf, only I want to use soft succulent cardstock, and it's one thing you have to, here it is, make sure you don't lose track of the dies, right? Okay, so put 1, 2, and 2 for the sandwich, for the plates, and then here we go. And there is our leaf. And just like last time, one little piece right there. You just need to, but it's really simple. Okay, so now we're ready to start putting our card together. So I've brought our card base back in, and I'm going to bring in 2 of the Designer Series paper, and you'll cut 2 at 1 3/4 by 5 1/4, and these are going to go on the outside of our gatefold, right like this. So I'm just going to turn that over, bring in our Stampin' Seal Plus, You can use Stampin' Seal or Stampin' Seal Plus. I just find the Stampin' Seal Plus works better for me. Sometimes I have a tendency to press too hard, so you don't want to do that. You don't need to really press very hard. And then I am going to just open up the card, because I find for me this works the best to try to, and you don't get a lot of choices or a lot of second chances with when you use the Stampin' Seal. So I'm trying to get it lined up before I press it down. And we will go ahead and do the same thing on this next one. So I've added the glue, and again I am going to, although sometimes I like to close this because I want to make sure I get that edge, try to get it even. Does that make sense? Even with this other one. But that may not happen. Okay, let's try that again. I can even go up just a little bit higher. All right. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the stitched rectangle soft succulent piece, and we're going to go ahead and bring our basic white that we stamped on. We're going to add some adhesive and adhere that to our soft succulent layer. So I'm going to bring in liquid glue for this. So even though there's quite a few little pieces, it really goes together really quickly. Some people call this like a topper card. I've heard it referred to before. And of course you could make, you could do a circle. You don't have to necessarily do, you know, a rectangle. And before I attach that to our card base, I have already brought in a basic white, and this is for the inside layer, and it is 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I went ahead and stamped the flower down in the corner, and I stamped "You Are Amazing Beyond Measure," which is also in the stamp set that we're using today. And then I'm just going to place that right here in the middle. And one of the reasons that I like to do this, I mean, if you have your card already and you stamp and make a mistake, well, then you have to kind of start all over. But I also like layer basic white on basic white. I think it kind of adds something. So we'll place this right in the middle of our, inside our card. Get it lined up. And now we're going to attach this. Of course, we don't want to put glue all over it because then we won't be able to get our card open. So we're going to be using tearing tape today, and we're going to put that on this side, on the left side of our card. So I'm going to place it like that and grab our tearing tape. And it comes in a package, tearing tape adhesive, and it's in our annual catalog. So if you have not seen this in there, we do have that. So we'll find the edge. Don't know where my Stampin' Up snips are, but this will work long as you have scissors. I kind of like to cut the edge straight to start with. And then I'm going to double check because I want to make sure that I'm on, you know, that I'm going to put tape on this side because this is how I want it to place it. So, okay, and I am just going to kind of decide about how long I need, and then I can just tear that off. And then I will just place this right up here. And there's just a little bit that might go over, so I can just, there we go. And I'm going to do that 2 more times. I now have tape on my fingers. We'll get that, take care of that. All right, and so again, I'm going to just tear that right off. Place that right here, and put that right below that other strip. And yes, I will be using the bone folder because I want to make sure that this is down really well, so it will adhere to my card base. So then I'm just going to rub our bone folder right over the tearing tape. And I don't need it completely half. I mean, these 3 will be just fine. And then I'm going to take your pick tool, and this is called Take Your Pick Tool. And if you do not have one, this is something you want to add to your crafting because it is just so handy. So you just take, I'm just taking that end and just flipping that up, and then I can just peel that right off, and then the sticky part is left on my card. So it's 2, we have 1 more. There we go. And you could have added 4 probably, that's, you know, but I don't think we need to. So now we're going to close our card, and then I want to kind of get the same amount on each side before I place it down. So our sticky is right here, and it's going to go on this side, the left side of our card base. And I want to try to get it straight and try to get the same amount of space up above, below this topper, and get it straight. And then you can press it down. You can open it up, bring in that bone folder again, and then just go ahead and make sure that your tearing tape is adhered really well to your cardstock. And so this is really, right now you could quit. This would be a cute card. Thanks. You are amazing beyond measure. But I'm going to make a belly band that's going to go over this, which will keep it closed, and then you can just slide it off. So I'm going to be bringing in a piece of soft succulent, and this is 1 inch, excuse me, 1.5 inch wide. So it's 1.5 inch wide by 9 inches. And then we're just going to wrap it around our card. Now you do not want to do it too tight because you will want to be able to, you know, slide it off. And of course if you do it too loose, so I kind of place it here and have about the same amount of cardstock on each side. And then I'm just kind of folding this up. Kind of like that. And then I'm going to slide that off. And you know what? We didn't add our 3rd flower. We have a 3rd flower that we want to add right here on the front with dimensionals. So let's go ahead and do that next. I was just getting so excited. Looks like I was practicing on the back. That's why I just used scrap basic white. When you use the thick, you can do that. When you turn it over, then you don't. Okay, and then we are going to add the third flower popped up with dimensionals. All right, now back to our belly band. So we've wrapped that around, but I don't want to get it too tight. So we are just going to go ahead and use our bone folder to make those creases. I'm going to check one more time, and then we're going to adhere this together. And I'm going to bring in some liquid glue, and looks like I've got a build up there, so we'll just pull that off. Now, you don't have to leave your card, your belly band on your card, but I'm going to, just because I don't want to get it too tight. So that way I know that it's not too tight. And then we're going to do a little decorating. So I have, in this suite, comes distressed gold specialty paper. And I believe you get 2 sheets of this. It's 12 by 12. And I have already cut a piece of this beautiful gold specialty paper. And this is 1 1/4 by 4. And so we're going to go ahead and add that to the front of our belly band. But I am going to take this off now, just so it's flat for me to work on. And again, I'm going to use the liquid glue. And we will place this. And that seam is still in front. So the seam where I glued is right here underneath the distressed gold, because I don't want that showing in the back. But you could put it in the back. And then I'm going to bring in that other flower that we have and those 2 leaves, the soft succulent and the evening evergreen. And I'm going to bring in our craft sheet, because I want to go ahead and add these to the back. Okay, and I think I'm going to add them with a glue dot. On the other card, I think I used a dimensional. But now, you want to make sure when you do this, this is the front, so I need to place it this way. So the back of the flowers toward me, and I want the back of the leaves toward me. And then I'm just going to press my glue dot on that leaf. And then pick up the other glue dot. So I'm actually putting the glue dot. The glue dot actually is going on the front of my leaf. Does that make sense? And then when I turn it this way, it will stick to my flower. I'm going to turn it over, and I have the glue dot here, and this is the front of the leaf, rather. But I kind of want to see how I want to set this. Okay, now I'm going to turn our flower over, and we're going to add some dimensionals. And I want to make sure that I put a dimensional over the stem of the leaves. It just kind of helps to keep it down. And then I'll add one more right here. So we have 3 dimensionals. And we'll bring in our belly band, and we're just going to kind of pop that up right here. Let's bring our card back. Let's get some of this stuff out of our way. So here's our card. Thanks. You are amazing beyond measure. And then here's our belly band, and it should go, and if you need to tuck your card in just a little bit, you can do that. And then it should slide right over. And here's your card. But of course, we need to add some embellishments, right? I'm going to bring in these iridescent pearl basic jewels. And this is a trick that I saw someone, and I would give the person credit if I could remember her name, but this was not my idea. And if somebody knows, if somebody has seen this and knows who that person is, leave it in the comment. If you like this card, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And so I'm just cutting up the side because that way I can just slide. I can just slide these out, and I'm also able to slide them right back into the sleeve. Because sometimes if you open it up like it's supposed to be, it's hard to get them back. Now on the Take Your Pick tool, I'm going to use that putty. And I'm going to pick up one of these pearls, and I am just going to place 3 right in the middle of our flower. And of course, we don't want to forget about that one that's right here. And I think 4 is fine. If you are of the mindset that you have to have an odd number, you could add 1 more gem, right? So here is the card that we just made. Here is the card that I showed you earlier. And I think it needs some gems. So I've added the embellishments, the iridescent pearl basic jewels, to both cards now. And the only difference between the two is that on the card that I showed you before we started, I did not go ahead and do that extra stamping with the soft succulent below the sentiment where I did here. So let me know which of the 2 cards that you like the best. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment. I appreciate it. I'm Terry Hartley at Rustic Barn Cards. Thank you for taking the time to watch today.